As a pretty competitive person, I am always thinking of ways to get better, stronger, faster. This is why I love going to the gym and competing in fitness races, but also why I love Mythic Plus. The timer and the scaling difficulty force you to go as fast as possible and improve. There's a question that has been bugging me for a while. What does being good at World of Warcraft even mean? How do I know if I'm good at World of Warcraft? Does timing a dungeon mean I'm good? Or is it because I got lucky with my pug group? And how do you get better, especially if you're always pugging? After doing a lot of dungeons with a full pre-made group, switching to pugging was a humbling experience. Because there's just no consistency. Everyone is different, and so knowing how well you're doing isn't exactly straightforward. If you're healing, dangerous casts are gonna go off. Not always because people won't interrupt, but also because the lack of communication means people will sometimes overlap their interrupts and the next deadly cast will be missed because no one's kick is off cooldown. Oh look, that nether burst is about to go off. Oh no, here comes the damage. As a tank you have to know everything and lead the group. There's a lot of homework involved, but you also need to be prepared for people pulling extra mobs, accidentally or on purpose, or telling you you're doing a bad job at the one thing no one else actually wants to do. The price you pay for quick queues, I guess. And finally, as a DPS player, you're basically in competition with the other people in your group for top DPS to prove you belong in that run. And then you also need to interrupt and use defensives. And as I was going through the dungeons as a pug healer, I realized I have no idea if I'm doing well or what I need to improve because there's no stable baseline. When something goes wrong, I'm not always sure if I made a mistake, if someone else made a mistake that I could still fix, or if it's something that always happened but it just didn't hurt at a +7 and now it does and I'm caught off guard. Especially because the same debuff that I can easily dispel on a shaman needs to be muscle healed through on a paladin and vice versa. Or you know, the first pull of Seed of the Triumvirate with the Chains of Subjugation is a lot easier to heal when the other players in your group use a movement freeing ability like Blessing of Freedom. And that's when it clicks for me. Getting better at World of Warcraft or being good at World of Warcraft is all about understanding the game more. Knowing what's happening in the dungeon, knowing how your class works so you can play into the dungeon mechanics better, like there are hundreds of uses for anti-magic shell if you're playing a Death Knight. You can use it on the line in Windrunner Spires others need to jump over, for instance. And the more you know about your role, your class, and understand the classes of the people in your party, the more time you have to look around and actually see dangerous situations happening in slow motion, and then decide how you're going to react to them. A level higher is knowing the dungeon so well that you can almost predict the future. Pugging for me means knowing what to do on paper and then going into a dungeon to put it into practice only to cave under the pressure. Yep, I panicked and switched to hardcasting heals there, and because I was so focused on keeping everyone alive, I forgot to look at my own feet. But that's mostly because I technically know the mechanics, but I haven't done enough reps to burn them into my memory. A good example is this boss in Nexus Point Zenith. I'd seen in a video that the boss uses deadly beams to divide the room, and that every few seconds a player gets marked by an arrow to clear the beam by standing on it. You need to do this because later in the fight the boss drops a giant orb on the group that you need to step out of. Okay, cool. Makes sense. Except I forgot that the orb dropping also knocks you back. And in my case, I got knocked into a fatal beam. Oops. So the next time I tried being proactive by positioning myself in another spot, but didn't look for the beam spawn points, another fatal mistake. Whoops. While I would love to watch one guide and then play perfectly forever while the cost of my mistakes ramp up with key levels, there are too many dungeons, enemies, and unique interactions to remember them all at once. I need a lot of reps, maybe even to failure, to let the knowledge really settle into my brain. Especially because not everything is obviously communicated in the game or something you learn while playing only one role. While playing a healer, I realize it's not always obvious what other players in your party are dealing with, especially if you're not in direct communication with them. Is this a healer mechanic, something the tank should be facing away from the group, or is this a DPS responsibility? Take Transference. It's a debuff in Nexus Point Zenith that I can totally dispel as a healer, and common sense says I should dispel debuffs on my party members as soon as possible, but Transference is unique because it redirects healing away from the debuffed player to other party members. So if it's on somebody that is full health and not taking damage, I can use the debuff as a funnel to heal the whole group. I wouldn't have known that if I was playing DPS, like I also sometimes don't know where certain tank damage is coming from because I'm not the one in their shoes. Is this damage something the tank should have mitigated with a defensive, or should I have been more proactive here? Especially if you're playing a healer without a tank external defensive like say, Resto Shaman. So how do you actually do more reps to understand more aspects of the game? While I understand the benefits of going tall and diving into deeply learn one spec class or role, I've never been able to focus or learn that way. If I could, I would have had a forever main. Instead, I'm going to use my alcoholic white player tendencies as a strength and try different perspectives to get better at my own main role. I've decided that the best way to get better at healer is to not play healer. My plan is to play a little bit of every role to see the dungeons from different perspectives, get a lot of reps in, and learn how to help my party members better, especially in a pug environment where we can't communicate. Because I've already done a lot of keys on 2 healers and a few on rogue, I decided to start tanking again. Tanking was my main role for half of Shadowlands, but I never tanked outside of my full pre-made group and almost always on Protection Paladin. So to make it harder on myself, I decided to level a Protection Warrior, a spec I've only tried in Mythic Plus twice before and I've never felt confident on. What do you mean I have to choose to spend my rage on damage or on defense? My warrior got to level 90 in a few hours thanks to Harlan and his Follow the Arrow add-on. Nice shade, by the way. But wow, my item level was very low, so the weeklies, 3 Nightmare Prey and a tier 11 Delve later, my item level was still low, but I had a cracked keystone. I like that Nightmare Prey funnels you into Delves to get a hero item, which then funnels you into Mythic Plus by offering a one-time crest bonus. So into the +2 Nexus Point Zenith I go, and oh my god, sorry to the healer, I was item level 214 and I saw my life flash before my eyes a few times. Searing Rend without a defensive nearly turned me into a floor POV tank. Ow, 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 ow! But we got through it, I got humbled, but it was instantly an interesting learning experience because my focus was on completely different things than when I'm playing my healer. It was like stepping into a completely different dungeon for the very first time. I will keep climbing on warrior after getting some gear. I mean, sorry again for dealing with my rat warrior healer. And maybe also experimenting with some DPS and different healers before I truly commit to the shaman climb. Have you switched characters yet, or are you still working on your main? I'm very curious to know what you think separates good players from the rest and what the best way to improve at WoW is. Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.